What's up, you guys? I'm Charmx. Today I'm going to be reacting to 5 scariest encounters and horror stories from hotel workers by Top 5s. Now, I love Top 5s, and Top 5s videos normally freak me out, so, there is that. And, hotels, like, there are a lot of, like, horror stories from hotels. Especially because, you know, if you go there, you might be a normal person, but the other guests might be a little bit crazy, you know, because wherever there's a large amount of people, there are going to be people there with problems right in the head. Especially if you're sleeping there, I can see how things can, you know, get a little bit creepy from time to time. So, anyway, with that being said, hopefully this is going to be quite interesting. The original link's in the description. Without any further ado, let's begin.
Close your eyes and think of the creepiest places on Earth. Places ripe with eerie encounters and haunted activity. There are
What was that big face in the sky? Wasn't that from a video game?
hundreds of unique landmarks and famous communities known to be such places. But one type of location regularly shows up.
Oh no, that's creepy.
In conversations about interactions with the paranormal. Hotels. For centuries, people across the world have run into their own horror stories when checking into a luxury suite, or spending a few nights in a cheap motel. However, the most interesting tales come from the hotel employees themselves.
Yeah, like, could you imagine if you worked at one of the hotels that's haunted? Like, being a guest there might be terrifying, but you're only going to be there for a couple days, right? Or maybe just one after. But as an employee, you freaking work there. You're there almost every day, you know, 40 hours a week. Oh, you'd have some crazy stories to tell. I guess that's one thing about the job. Like, you might hate the job, but you get interesting stories, right? Like, especially if it's at a haunted hotel. You could have some really creepy stories to tell. There's no freaking way I'd work there.
Who are prone to witness something out of the ordinary on a daily basis. So from a tragedy in the hotel that inspired The Shining, to an abandoned hotel that housed Japanese soldiers during World War II, here are 5 creepy encounters and horror stories from hotel workers. Hit the lights, sit back, and enjoy.
I don't know why you even suggest hitting the lights. There's no freaking way I'm hitting the lights. And also, I have tried recording in the dark before, but my camera, like, glitches and, like, slows down and everything. Like, the voice and the audio gets unsynced. It's really bizarre. I don't know why. I think something's wrong with the camera. But, yeah, there's no way I'm turning off the lights.
Holiday Inn Horror. On May the 15th, 2013, at around 1:30 PM, an unidentified maid at the Holiday Inn Express near San Jose, California, was making her rounds through the lower levels of the hotel, performing routine duties. That is until she discovered a woman's lifeless body in one of the rooms. She immediately called the police, stating the naked corpse appeared severely mutilated. Crime scene investigators arrived and identified the victim as 35-year-old Veronica Lozano. She had been stabbed nearly 40 times and suffered a gunshot wound to the head. News reporters quickly arrived as well, and one photographer saw copious amount of blood on the walls through his lens. While Lozano was in the hotel room, nobody knew.
I was gonna say, you know, if it was just a randomly a person who had passed away, it's basically bound to happen at some point. But as far as what happened to that person, I was not expecting, and that's something that probably does not happen that often.
Until law enforcement checked with the front desk and found the room in question was booked under the name Julio Pliego. Police tracked him to Mexico City, where he was arrested and eventually extradited back to the US, charged with homicide and the killing of Veronica Lozano. What makes the situation all the more creepier is none of the residents or hotel workers heard anything out of the ordinary. You would think such a brutal murder would include loud noises, and the gunfire would alert nearby guests.
Yeah, you would think that.
No one saw Julio enter the hotel with the body either, leaving us to wonder why the two ended up there in the first place. One thing's for certain, the still unidentified maid probably never expected to find such a monstrosity at an innocent little hotel highway, and I'd like to think never will again.
Yeah, they probably quit that job and went into something less stressful, like cooking.
This is the lamb.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Ballygally Castle Hotel. The Ballygally Castle Hotel was built in 1625 in Northern Ireland by Scotsman James Shaw. The castle was kept in the Shaw family until the end of the 18th century, when it was sold a few times between a variety of parties. By 1950, Ballygally Castle entered the hands of carpet tycoon Cyril Lord, who expanded the grounds with extra living quarters, which turned into a 3-star hotel by the turn of the millennium. Since then, however, the hotel has been a constant mainstay for ghost sightings and other haunted phenomena. Lady Shaw, the wife of founder James Shaw, died a brutal death in the first few years of the castle's existence.
Wait, so is this hotel still open?
And her spirit is said to be one of the frequent disturbances, making appearances in the castle's ghost room, an infamous chamber for paranormal activity.
Frig that.
The craziest stories came in 2003 when the hotel manager at the time, Olga Henry, did an interview for Jeff Belanger while writing his book, The World's Most Haunted Places. Henry stated that even though she grew up in Northern Ireland, she never knew about the Ballygally folktales. So when she first took the job, she shrugged off the never-ending worries from tourists. That is, until one of her guests went crazy. Henry said,
"Oh, is this what inspired The Shining? Because I haven't seen The Shining. Like, I know parts of it and kind of what happens. And what I believe happens is that, you know, in the actual Shining, Jack Nicholson, he kind of goes crazy and then he goes after his family. And was that inspired from this? Or something like that?"
The guest was staying in one of the rooms in the tower, and he has little kids at home. In the middle of the night, he thought he was in his own house. He was laying face down in the bed and thought one of his children had put their hand on his back. He woke up and sort of realised where he was, and said he could hear a child running about the room and laughing. He then appeared at our reception area in just his boxer shorts and said, "Just get me out of that old part of the castle." Henry also remembered a time
I was expecting a jump scare right there.
when she had set up a conference space called the Dungeon Room, located in the old castle, with tables and chairs and dining fixtures. After locking the door behind her, she went back to work, only to return a few hours later and find the room completely rearranged. Henry claims she's the only one with a key to the dungeon room, and the tables all had a dust covering on them. No explanation was ever found, and the Ballygally continues to haunt guests and workers to this day.
Oh, so it's still open.
The Stanley Hotel. Best known as the inspiration
Oh, this is the one. So this is the one that inspired The Shining.
for Stephen King's top-selling horror novel The Shining, the Stanley Hotel was built on Independence Day 1909 by Freeland Oscar Stanley, one of the twin brothers who founded the Stanley Steamer Company, and it's been terrifying guests, employees, and ghost hunters alike ever since. One room of infamy within the hotel is room 217. Current Stanley employees and tour guides tell guests the story of Chief Housekeeper Elizabeth Wilson, who in 1911, while maintaining the hotel's lanterns during a severe thunderstorm, was electrocuted and triggered a freak explosion in the room. While she survived the incident, many claim her spirit still looks over guests. In fact, this was the room renowned author Stephen King stayed in back in the 1970s. He stated that when he and his wife arrived at the Stanley, they left their suitcases packed while they went out exploring, only to come back to their belongings put away neatly without any current maid service underway.
Oh, that's creepy. That's creepy.
Because their stay was also close to the winter season, they were all by themselves, and yet both King and his wife could hear distant conversations and a grand piano playing music in the deserted ballroom. When King awoke one night from a terrible nightmare, he lit a cigarette, and the story of The Shining was born in his head before he finished it. While not one particular encounter, in recent years, staff of the Stanley Hotel claim they still hear music being played in corridors, and children's laughter on the 4th floor. It becomes quite the spot for paranormal investigators as well, and one has to wonder if the creepy characters and spirits of The Shining were willed into existence by Mr. King and the visitors hoping to spot something, or whether or not it really is one of the most haunted hotels in the world.
And it's still open though? Because it looks like it is. And it's actually, look at that, that's really nice. That looks really nice.
What do you think, and have you ever been there?
Haven't been? Not gonna.
the Knickerbocker Melting Pot. Sitting at 714 Ivor Avenue in downtown Los Angeles is the infamous Knickerbocker Hotel, a once glamorous landing spot for Hollywood's biggest stars. Built in 1929, the Knickerbocker attracted A-listers such as Lana Turner, Jerry Lewis, Frank Sinatra, Marilyn Monroe, and Elvis Presley. Sadly, like many Golden Age era hotspots, the hotel fell into deterioration as it became rife with tragedy and death, and the neighbourhood outside was wrought with gang activity and drug addiction. One such instance of tragedy came in 1948 when retired filmmaker D.W. Griffith, known for the controversial movie Birth of a Nation, died of a stroke after falling unconscious right in the main lobby. Costume designer Irene Gibson jumped from the 14th floor to her death in 1962 after struggling with addiction, depression, and the death of former lover and actor Gary Cooper. On a supernatural spectrum, Harry Houdini's wife, Bess Houdini, conducted a 10th and final seance on the roof of the Knickerbocker after attempting to connect to the spiritual world for the last decade. These instances all led to the Knickerbocker's nickname, the Heartbreak Hotel, and eventually
Oh, I've actually heard of this. I'm actually surprised that I've heard of it.
its decline. However, in 1970, a renovation project went underway to turn the residence into a senior citizens' living quarters, to which the old hotel is maintained as today. But with the history of tragedy the Knickerbocker withholds, many stories of haunted sightings have come about in recent years. Employees say an old bellhop named Roger still walks the hallways, and maids have described seeing Marilyn Monroe putting on makeup in front of the vanity mirror in a bathroom. Doors slam open and shut, cold spots are frequent, and creepiest of all, former actor Rudolph Valentino was always mentioned as a frequent guest back in the 30s, even though he died 4 years before the Knickerbocker even opened.
Oh, that's weird. That's very weird. It's freaky. And this is an old folks home now? Is that what happened? Because it sounded as if they said it was an old folks home now. What were they? What are you thinking? You're gonna get all the old people heart attacks if they start seeing this kind of crap.
Sadly, because it's no longer a hotel, we may never get a chance to spend a night inside the mysterious structure. But it's fascinating to think of the vast number of spirits still supposedly lurking there.
But it's an old folks home? Isn't that what he said, or did I hear something wrong? 'Cause it sounded as if they made this into like a place for old people, and that's just like a bad idea. Because if you got like spirits in there, all the old people are gonna have heart attacks. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this video. This was pretty freaky. The last one, I just can't. Did they really make it into like a retirement home or whatever? Like, whoever thought of that is a twisted person. But yeah, if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, possibly share with a friend. If you're new, hit subscribe and join the family. Also, make sure you go subscribe to Top 5s. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next time.